All right, guys. Are you ready for your first keynote speaker? Oh, come on. Are you ready for your first keynote speaker? So, our first keynote speaker is a communicator, a connector, a community champion who follows a faith-led calling to serve and support others. As Director of Communications for Highmark Blue Shield in Southeastern PA, she is responsible for media relations, public relations, and communication strategies that supports the organization's mission and vision, reputation and brand, and living strategy in Highmark's newest market. Prior to this role, she has managed communications, community affairs, and philanthropic investments for Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield Delaware, overseeing more than 20 million in health-focused grants throughout Delaware. Outside of work, she commits time, treasure, and talent to exceptional care for children, Junior Achievement of Delaware, Public Allies Delaware, Central Delaware Chamber of Commerce, Public Relations, Society of America Delaware, a committee of 100. She is also involved in the Governor's Commission of Employment and Social Services, Leadership Delaware, and University of Delaware Horn Entrepreneurship and Learner College Mentoring Programs. She is also moderated by Chelsea Clark, which is VP of Spur Impact board member. Our first keynote, Denée Crumrine.
Is this working? Ah, it is. Good morning, everyone. Hi. Welcome, welcome. We are very excited to be here. I'm very excited to be able to sit and chat with Denée, and we get to hear so many wonderful thoughts from her. And I just want to say I applaud everybody in this room for being here today. Professional development really is an ongoing process, so no matter where you are on your professional path, the fact that you're here today and willing to engage and learn, massive kudos to all of you. So I think Denée is ready to take us back to basics.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I always hate it when people do that, but I'm going to do it. Okay, so before we kick off, as Chelsea said, we're getting back to basics. And yes, thank you all for being here. This is so exciting. I would love to share a quick story and then make you guys do a really awkward exercise. So when I was in college at University of Delaware, I had an amazing professor, Professor Bartu. She's actually the reason I got into public relations. And the very first thing she had our class do was demonstrate our handshake. So your handshake is a first impression. It is your intent to connect. So I would love for all of you to stand up. You don't have to, but please stand up if you're willing. Find a partner. First key component to a good handshake is, any guesses? Eye contact. Thank you. It has nothing to do with your hand. The next best advice I can give you, if you've ever been bowling and you know you're supposed to aim for those little arrows on the runway, right? You're not aiming at the pins. You're going to aim for your partner's, whatever this is called. I don't know if anybody's anatomy knows what this piece between your finger, your forefinger, and your thumb is. That's what you're aiming for. So you make eye contact. Hi, I'm Denée. Chelsea, can we? We can. And we're going to go. Do you see this connection? This is what you want. This is what you want. Okay? I don't want to see any airplanes coming in. That's not fun for your person you're meeting. I don't want any curtsies, right? We're not Bridgerton, okay? We're going in. We're making a solid first impression. So find a partner. Great, great, great. I love it. I love it. Okay, that's going.
Oh, I see some real connection happening.
I love it.
Does anybody actually know what this part of their hand is called?
Does anybody? No? Okay. Someone
All right,
Google it. Someone Google it and let us know. Okay, thank you for humoring me.
I think that's a critical point. That definitely takes us all the way back to basics because the handshake is the most basic gesture, but it is important. It is your first impression. So Now that our arms are kind of worked up, we've made our connections, we've exchanged our pleasantries. Now we can kind of dive in.
Yes, and I hope you just met someone new. If you haven't, that's the whole point of this conference. So please make sure that you're practicing your handshake on new friends. I'm going to mispronounce that. The Thenar space.
Thenar space.
Thenar. Thenar. All right, we all learned something today.
Learned something brand new.
All right, are we ready?
We're ready. Okay. So I just want to say before we get started that I am quite lucky to be able to sit up here with Denée, because not only is she just a wonderful person, but she actually is one of my friends. So I feel like I'm just biased enough to be able to tell you that she is the real deal. She's really loyal. She's logical, intelligent, fun to be around. But most importantly, she's really comfortable in her own experiences. She's going to tell you that she's a great communicator. And I'm going to confirm that for you. But she's not just a great communicator because she's good on this stage or because she can walk into a meeting and command the necessary attention. She's a really good communicator because she's incredibly thoughtful with her messages and her responses. She is very firm in who she is and stands on that ground, but she stays open to the lessons that are meant for her. And I think that's what makes her such an amazing communicator. So there's a lot of wisdom to be gained from the perils she's going to share with us this morning. So yeah, back to basics and beyond. Denée.
Thank you, Chelsea.
You're
that
welcome.
Was so lovely. Don't let her oversell me. I'm pretty great, but I don't know. That was really beautiful.
She is. She's worthy of all of that.
Thank you so much. So I am so excited to be here for many reasons, but I will share with all of you, especially if you're new. Raise your hand if this is your first MILLSUMMIT. Yeah.
Oh, I love this. Huge.
Oh, I love that. Okay. Raise your hand if this is like your fifth or more. Okay, I love that.
Yes,
okay.
All in the back.
So I go way back with this organization, with this event, to the days where it was just an idea. Charlie Vincent brought it to me at the Brouhaha on Delaware Avenue, and some other folks. And I started out as just an idea person on the planning committee, and then eventually got roped in, or rather volunteered for being a subcommittee co-chair, and then a lead chair, and then event volunteer. I've been a fireside chat moderator. I've been a panelist. So to be a keynote is truly an honor, but also just a full circle moment for me with this amazing event. And I can't be more proud of the people who make this come to life, who make it what it is. It's really special. So I thank all of you for being here. So beyond intros, which is what I just did. So we were talking about networking, and you hear words like elevator pitch or what have you. So I do want to talk about the elevator pitch. I'm not a fan, to be honest. I know that's like an unpopular opinion. And I think you hear it a lot to have one ready. What I really think you should have ready, and this is very much a personal opinion, is really the elements of that elevator pitch. Who are you? What's your why? What's your aim for being there? And then what are you, as Chelsea said, what are you open to in that particular setting? Because it can't be just honestly, you're going to go say, hi, I'm a communicator, connector, community champion. These are my skill sets. This is what I bring to the table. How are you today? This is not really a realistic interaction, right? So I encourage all of you to think about what it means to introduce yourself, but then also how you receive and remember the introductions that you're also encountering in these kinds of scenarios.
I think we're told often that it's important for us to have that elevator pitch, but one of the things that you had said and I loved was, can we skip the elevator pitch and take the stairs? Because really it feels like the elevator pitch is a quick response to someone, but if you're trying to build a longer relationship, you're going to need to put more into it and really have the background. Is that right?
Yes, that's a great analogy. Did I come up with
You came up with that. I stole your words.
So yeah, so you hear 30-second elevator pitch. If you ran into someone in the elevator, what would you say? How would you be memorable? And I would yes. So let's skip the elevator. Let's take the long way. Let's take the scenic route, and let's really get to know one another in that space of time where I remember who you are, what you're about. You remember that about me, so that 5 years later, you're top of mind when something triggers my memory of you.
Mm-hmm. So you said that you need to have those things built in that are your why, your reason for. Well, beyond that elevator pitch, that initial introduction, what's the next move?
So networking, that's why we're all here, right? So thinking about beyond networking, which networking is amazing. I'm a huge proponent of networking. I used to work for the Delaware State Chamber of Commerce. I had the great Chamber of People unite. So I was very lucky that job had inherent networking built in. It was literally my job to connect people. And sometimes when we hear that word networking, it can be daunting, it can be intimidating, it's very uncomfortable, it seems surface level, it feels transactional, and there is a lot of that is happening. And so to Chelsea's point about beyond networking, I would encourage everyone to be thinking about what's beyond networking for you in terms of relationship building, right? You're not gonna recommend someone for a position or a role without knowing a little bit about them to where your reputation is no longer on the line, right? We're not gonna, rule of thumb for me, I don't connect with people on LinkedIn unless I've met you. So when people send a request, it sits in my inbox. If I know I'm going to meet you, great, but I will never accept you on LinkedIn because I don't know who you are. And I don't know that if someone said, oh, I see you're connected with Chelsea Clark, what can you tell me about her? If I can't tell you about Chelsea, we shouldn't be connected there. I can't vouch for you.
That feels like a really bold strategy in today's day and age. I think everybody tends to dive right in, but I appreciate that approach.
And I love it when people connect with me on LinkedIn once we've met. Or connect and offer a meeting, for sure. Yeah.
So when you are putting together, going back to just taking it back to basics, right? We really, as we were kind of talking about, well, what is this theme and what does this really, what does back to basics mean for so many folks? Really, it's about finding out those pillars. So if we're going to do the elevator pitch and we're going to have our why, we really need to figure out what we stand for, right? Like what are our pillars and our basics of who we are? So when we were discussing things, 3 things really came to mind for Denée. They kind of like popped out of our conversation and stood out to me. And that really is that personal brand, the relationships, and that authenticity. And I think that you were able to take that and build your why, which leads to that beyond the elevator, getting to the stairs, and then the networking afterwards. What can we encourage folks to kind of dive into as far as developing what their why is and their basics?
Is everyone familiar with that concept? What's your why? Is anyone not? Don't be shy. Okay, so does everyone here have a why? Does everyone here know their why? Yes?
We need CJ back with another board.
Yeah. Okay, if you don't know your why, think about it, okay? I would encourage everyone to think about what that is. And your why, for me, it is to whom much is given, much is expected. That is my why, right? I am very blessed to have a lot of people in my life. That's why I'm involved with so many mentoring programs. I have a lot of time, treasure, and talent that have been bestowed upon me. So that's why it's very important to me that I'm involved with the community, advocacy, legislate, whatever it may be, right? So your why is not going to look like my why. Your journey is not going to look like someone else's journey. And you have to really figure out what's important to you. If any of you are a nonprofit, you'll know we try to stay away from mission drift, right? Let's not drift from our why. If it's pulling us away from our why, then it's probably not the right thing for us, whether that's a job or a volunteer opportunity or a person. So I think that's really critical. Sorry, was there more to that?
No, that was it. You got this. I think oftentimes people will get stuck after they kind of give that elevator pitch, or they aren't sure what the next move is. What happens if you do get stuck? If you kind of feel like you've run out of words in that moment and you're, oh, what do I say next? How do I continue this conversation? What would be that next move for you?
Always have questions ready. Networking is a skill. It is a practice. Some of us are good at it. Some of us are afraid of it, but it is a skill that you can learn and practice. So there's a strategy behind it. So yes, be prepared, you guys. Have a script ready. Have a couple of like curveball questions you can ask. If you're standing there like, oh crap, we now know each other's names. Oh God, have something like, even if it's just a basic boilerplate question that you go to, like what's bringing you joy these days? What's something that's keeping you up at night? What's a cool project you're working on? These are very meaningful questions to a person who loves to talk about their why, right? No one loves to talk about, this is a very easy topic for me because it's about myself. So people love to talk about themselves and what they're working on. So you should have a few of those in your back pocket to keep things moving. And the beyond for that too is that people remember you had a great conversation. People remember that you were interested in them, that you were pulling questions about them, and you weren't just standing there talking about yourself. So I think it's really critical beyond just that networking piece that you're actually creating a meaningful connection.
I know there's a little bit of cliche to that concept of, I don't always remember what somebody said or what their resume was, But I remember how they made me feel, if I was able to laugh, if I was able to engage in that moment. And I think there's a lot to be said about building those skills to be able to just have a conversation with a person, to find a connection point. And I love the idea that you said everybody likes to talk about themselves. We do, right? We want to be able to share our story. So if somebody's asking us about our story, that feels good in that moment. And then we can continue to carry that forward. So if you enter a room, you have your canned questions in case you need them. Are there any other tips and tricks for how to maneuver a room when you're walking into a networking situation? Because it can be anxiety inducing for a lot of folks. So what can we tell them or give them tips?
Do not be on your phone walking into a room.
Ooh.
Okay. You walk in, you can make eye contact with anybody in that room. It doesn't need to mean anything. Confidence matters. Fake it till you make it. You don't feel comfortable. That's okay. No one needs to know that you don't feel comfortable, right? Do not hang out on the fringes, okay? Just get out there. Everyone's there for that reason. So we're all in our own heads, right? It's like that concept of like, oh, I'm at the gym. Everyone's watching me at the gym. No one's watching you at the gym. Everyone's there to do their thing at the gym. Networking, everyone is there to meet you. They are there to meet you, whether you know that or not, because that's why they're there. So we don't need to be, we can drop that fear. Now, I know that's easier said than done.
So much easier said than done.
Yes. And then, I think, the more you practice your handshake, the more you know your why, the more that you get out there and engage in these conversations. Like I said, it's a muscle, it's a skill. As you get better in time, then it's going to be so much easier. So keep doing it. Put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Phone, handshake, eye contact, fringes, open the circle. Open the circle. That's something that we've learned in Leadership Delaware. If you're chatting with someone and you kind of like see someone on your peripheral, or you see someone that looks uncomfortable, wouldn't you want someone to invite you into that conversation? Be that for other people. So, that's body language and being open and not.
And you don't even have to stop.
We don't have to sit and talk like this. So we're boxing you out.
The open the circle idea, really, you don't even have to stop the conversation to do that.
No.
You can be engaging in a conversation and see someone on the periphery trying to walk in, and it's just a matter of like stepping back. And that open space makes people feel so much more welcome to, if they're feeling skittish or concerned about walking up and interrupting a conversation, that openness, without it even calling attention to the fact that they may be uncomfortable, you've now created that space for them to walk into.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I think that is meaningful. One thing that you said is don't hang out on the fringes, but I think people do hang out on the fringes, right? That's what we do. We gravitate toward the space that feels a little bit more comfortable. But if you are anxious, maybe going to talk to the people that are on the fringes.
Absolutely. Another great strategy.
Right?
Yeah.
I think so. You can go and pull them in, or just let that be your jumping off point. Start there.
Is this resonating with anyone? Okay.
How many people hang out on the fringes? Yeah, you do. I see your hands.
I get it.
Absolutely. It's not easy to do that, but I think sometimes it's one step in front of the other. Just walk around, look for those places where maybe there is somebody who's got just a little bit of an open hole in their circle, and just walk into it. Sometimes it's just walking in and being able to listen to what they're talking about, and then introduce yourself and kind of take that. But sometimes it's just one step at a time. If you are going to hang on the fringes and you're not ready to go, find somebody else on the fringes with you and talk to them, because you both are probably looking to hone that skill. So I think that that's a great way to continue that conversation and continue to build your own skills. All right. Anything else from networking?
I'll just say the way that I look at it is networking leads to relationship building. I would not be where I am without that. The job that I currently have came from connections that I made in another job. I wasn't saying, my goal was not to work at Highmark. Love it there. I never said, when I grow up, I'm going to be a director of comms for Highmark. No, that's not what happened. Literally took opportunities that were presented to me. I did my best at those things. I met people along the way. Thankfully, people who are willing to invest in me. Raise your hand if you have a great mentor. Yes.
Ooh.
Yes. Raise your hand if someone saw your potential before you did. Absolutely. And that is how I got where I am, because someone said, Denée, you're good at this. Maybe you're not so good at this. Focus on this. And I've taken all of that feedback. And it is interesting when I look back on my career path, every job I've had came from some level of a network or relationship connection, not me blindly submitting a resume somewhere. Not to say that's not a very valuable and valid way to get a job, But because people were willing to vouch for me in those scenarios to the people hiring, took me a lot further than what was on paper.
Well, that's true. If you surround yourself, if you can make an impression, if you can start to build relationships, which is one of those pillars that I know that you stand on, by building those relationships, what you're creating is a group of individuals who are willing to talk about you in a good and positive way in rooms you are not in yet.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So if you are building those connections, if you are making somebody remember who you are, when you are not there yet, somebody is saying, hey, Denée Crumrine is awesome. Have you had a conversation with her? And that starts that process. That's critical. That's why networking and relationship building, taking the stairs instead of just the elevator, is so critical.
And conversely, people remember when you talk poorly about others. And so you may be speaking truths, but when you are critical of the people around you or people in your circles, people remember that too. So I would just caution, who you're sharing that type of feedback with, because you don't want to be known as the person who says negative things about other people. That's, a lesson that I've learned over the years and have seen and I'm guilty of in certain circles. So we all have to just keep moving along and learning and growing and being open to that constructive. I was lucky enough, again, that someone gave me that constructive feedback early on in my career.
Yeah, I think that how we speak, that's what people tend to remember. So you always want to make sure that you're being as positive as possible in those situations. Anytime you have the opportunity to bend someone's ear, I think that that's a critical thing to be able to do. So beyond networking, if we've kind of established ourselves as somebody who can work a room, somebody who can feel comfortable enough to walk in, to maybe step into a circle, have a conversation, start to build a relationship. What happens after that event, that opportunity is done? What's the next move?
I just want to say, someone who has the Riz, if you will. There was a really great article in the Wall Street Journal actually recently called, does everyone know what Riz is? I feel so old saying it. Okay, it's just short for charisma. I'm a millennial. It's not my language.
She said that did not feel comfortable for her.
I didn't, but it's an article that is entitled, "Is Riz the Secret to Getting Ahead at Work?" And it was a really insightful piece on, yes, be good at what you're doing, but also, do you have the people skills? Do you have the ability to connect with others, to leave that impression, to get ahead at work or in life? So I think, that's something to consider. It's, again, a skill, right? Your people skills are skills that you can learn and grow and improve on. So you're not going to ever be stuck wherever you are with those skills.
I like that. I don't feel comfortable using Riz either, but I like the word charisma, and I'm here for it being an absolute tenet that people need to have. It's a skill. It's learned and it comes in time and lots of times with a lot of practice, but it is something. So we get to beyond that moment. What would be your next move if you leave an event and you are, hey, I really like that connection. I want to connect with that person and either build a relationship with them. I can see value in us. I find a way where we could be mutually beneficial to each other. What is your next move beyond that? Do you wait for them to reach out to you?
No.
Okay.
I mean, you wait if you don't really want to connect, right? I don't know. You have to make those choices, right? Sometimes you're in a season of yes. Sometimes you're in a season of no. Sometimes you really need to weigh whether or not that's a relationship you want to continue to cultivate or not. If it is something that was meaningful to me or a person that I admire from afar or that I want to emulate in some way, I absolutely reach out. The worst thing that's going to happen is they ghost you, which, let's be honest, we've all been ghosted. We've all done ghosting. It's not an unusual concept here, right? Big deal. So they either don't respond or they respond and say no, which, okay, then But I would say 7 times out of 10, maybe even more than that, they're going to want to meet with you again because they love to talk about themselves. They want to share their experience and their expertise with you. The fact that you're interested in that is really very flattering and validating, right? And so I always err on the side of, confidence in that space of people are going to want to connect back with you. So I don't really feel like I need to wait unless they were going to gather some information. But then even then, 3 days, is there a 3-day text rule now? But 3 days, follow up. Hey, we met at this event. What you said about this was really impactful and I'd love to hear more. Can we please connect? Don't spam them though. Take a hint. If they're kind of trying to be nice about not meeting with you.
But I think that there's flattery in that. So you're right. I would say 7 out of 10 times is a even minimal maybe, because I think people want to know that what they said, whatever conversation they had, made an impression on somebody. So if somebody reaches out and found impact in that, they're going to want to say, yes, let's connect. Let's find a way to either have a conversation, have a coffee, and dig in a little bit deeper to. You had a thought. I saw it coming.
Who's been afraid to reach out? Raise your hand. Just be honest. Okay, now that's a new goal, right? You're going to reach out to that person you were afraid to reach out to because you are worthy of their time and they are excited to meet you. So everyone that just raised their hand, that's your takeaway today. You're going to reach out to that person you were afraid to reach out to.
What do you think is holding back? If anybody shouts it out, is it the fear? Well, let me ask this question. Is there a comfortable space to reach out? Is it phone? Is it email? Is it LinkedIn? Is there a space that feels more comfortable than others? In person feels more comfortable. I like that. I feel like some people would say that.
No.
Yes,
it's harder for
you're
them
right.
to say
You can
no.
if they're right there. It is more authentic. It is.
Absolutely. Fear of interrupting. Oh, yes. So love that, Cora. Thank you for bringing that. That is a good fear to have because everyone's time is valuable. So if you are going to reach out, make sure you're doing it with intent and meaning. Do not leave them hanging. You supply the dates and times at work, right? Offer to work with their schedule. You should be fearful of interrupting their time. So make sure it's valuable for both of you, right? That's a great point, Cora. Thank you. Mm-hmm. But you are worthy of people's time. So don't make yourself small because you feel like you shouldn't be taking up that space.
And, you miss 100 of the shots you're not going to take. So it never hurts to at least do the LinkedIn after you've met somebody or an email or a conversation. But I do love the idea of being prepared. If you do get into a opportunity to go in and meet with somebody, if you have one thing that I used to find that worked, and you probably were in the same, ask for 15 minutes of somebody's time. That's a small ask. Small favors, small asks seems palatable and manageable for somebody who may have a busy schedule. If it goes well, you're going to end up in a conversation that lasts well beyond that 15 minutes. But if you're only asking for 15 minutes and your intention is to go in with a specific question or a specific ask, that is meaningful. So it's going back to that being prepared thing. I think that is critical. One thing I would also encourage folks to do, and I'm going to ask you what yours is, but have a question, an ending question that you want to ask that kind of puts them to help you take the next step. One thing I always ask is, who else would you recommend I connect with? That's an easy one because it forces them to be thinking about this conversation specifically, this person in front of me, who would be their next person to connect with. And I think that that's a great way. But have something that you want to, take away that question at the end of, if you have 15 minutes conversation, if you have a coffee, if you have a whole lunch, whatever you end up finding in an engaging conversation with somebody you wanted to connect with, have that asking question. What's yours?
That's a great strategy. Mine is there something that I can help you with today?
Ooh.
Is there someone you need to connect with? Is there a project you're working on? Is there a recommendation I can make? How can I help you?
Mm-hmm. Well, then we would be in a great conversation.
It would be
great.
Great.
Okay. So we talked about the idea of personal branding and the beyond elevator pitch, right? You're taking the stairs. We're also talking about beyond networking. What are some tenets that help us get being uncomfortable in those situations? Because your networking is critical to building your personal brand and how people see you and the relationships that you're going to need long term. Beyond that, it's diving into your authenticity, right?
So, yes.
Who are you beyond that?
Beyond self. So kind of, I guess, counterintuitive. A lot of my identity, my personality is wrapped up in the others in my life, right? My family, my friends, my community. And so the third thing we'll be talking about is beyond self. How giving back and giving your best begets gains. I really workshopped that, guys, okay? So I was working really hard on these beyonds. So beyond self, it, again, like I mentioned, my why is to whom much is given, much is expected. It might be your family. It might be your career. Your why might be focused on something that's different, and that's perfectly fine as long as it's really not yourself. We all hear these sayings, we rise by lifting others, the tide rises all boats. I believe in that 1000%. And so what I have found is that in giving myself back to the community, giving back to others, giving my time, my treasure, my talent, because it's not all about money, right? It's not just about like making a donation. Sometimes your expertise is needed, is wanted, but also sometimes those experiences and opportunities allow you to grow into new spaces, learn new skills, meet new people. And so thinking about where you can plant yourself to improve the world around you, whether that's by mentoring someone or volunteering with a nonprofit, whatever it may be, serving on a board, these things that really grow your whole person while also benefiting all those around you is something that is critically important. And I certainly would, again, not be where I am without those kind of extracurricular, if you will, experiences that have helped shape my actual career path. Does that make sense?
It does make sense,
Okay.
but can you elaborate? Tell us a little bit about those meaningful things that
Sure.
define who you are, that have allowed you
much time do
to
we have?
get on the path
Okay.
that you're on.
Okay, so Andre was very sweet to read my whole bio, which I'm so sorry that you had to sit through. But yeah, so there was a point in time where I said I was in a season of Yes. I was on like 12 boards and committees. That's too much, guys. Don't do that. Don't you get around, like if you can't list them all in one hand, you're probably too thin. But all of them have led me or taught me something, right? And so I think one of the things that comes to mind is a very long-term volunteer experience that I've had with Exceptional Care for Children. Is anyone familiar with Exceptional Care? Yeah? Okay. Yes. So ECC, amazing. If you had, this is a shameless plug for ECC. They are a skilled pediatric nursing facility in Newark, Delaware. They care for children with technological dependencies. It is truly an inspirational, amazing place where these kids are just resilient and happy and love people and the people around them. And you see some nursing staff working at like this incredible capacity of heart and skill that are making these kids' lives better. And so I started volunteering with them back in 2008. I can't do that math right now, but it's been a long time. It's been a long time. And at one point in time, and what I did was I sat in a room with a bunch of the kids before bed. We just hung out. And that's not going to be for everybody. I understand that. So find the thing that works for you. And one day the volunteer coordinator came to me and said, we have a resident child who really needs some extra attention. He's very bright, very precocious, would love for you to sit with him and really explore his interests. And I was like, well, I don't have any background in intellectual disabilities. I don't have any background in autism or working with kids or education or anything like that. We know, but we think you'd be really great for him. This involved like a huge background check, like all these things. I was like, I feel so underprepared for this. And she just kept encouraging. She's like, you're going to be great at this. He's going to love you. So Andrew is his name. We met, he was 4 years old. Andrew was nonverbal, not potty trained, G-tube fed. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's stomach tube, so he could not eat. A lot of different challenges for this kid. He was actually a conjoined twin, and his twin also, it was at ECC. I will spare the long story. If you want to know more, I'm happy to talk about it. But fast forward to today, and Andrew's actually partially in my care, and in the care of a friend of mine who I also met at Exceptional Care. And so he will be 18 at the end of this month, which is really hard for me. He was 4 when we met, and I've watched that child learn to eat, learn to walk, learn to talk, become incredibly independent and intelligent and hilarious. That is a storyline I could not have guessed or foreseen. With all the hints, with all of the foreshadowing in the world, I never would have guessed that I would be where I am right now with this kid who has absolutely changed my life because I was open to someone who saw potential in me before I saw it in myself. And I am a better person for it. I have learned more about the healthcare system, well, maybe not, I work for a healthcare system, but I've learned more about disability and autism and special care. I've been to Nemours more times than I care to count. And it has opened my eyes to a whole new world. But this kid has become such a huge part of my life that I really can't imagine my life without it. That's a pretty intense story, but
it just go one, you said you never know what's for you. So you have to be open to things. And I think your openness to this situation, and I love that you tied back in the idea of somebody seeing something in you. I think we also been associate that with just professional situations, and that's critical, but it can happen personally as well.
Yeah.
And they saw something in you that it was life-changing and allowed you to be open. And it also helped become, I think, a guiding star for you and who you are and how you approach most of your professional decisions and personal ones.
Correct. No, not an understatement whatsoever.
Yeah, no, he's been big. So the whole idea of that is stay open, because you never know what's for you. So if you do stay open, if you open circles and allow for additional connections in your life, whether it's in a professional setting or you find yourself volunteering or getting involved with an organization that pulls to you, there's so many opportunities that could be for you would have never planned for yourself and can make a world of difference in your life.
And I'll make that more full circle as I'm sitting here thinking about tying back to relationships that I cultivated, people who invested in me and made a point to connect with me years prior to any of this were absolutely people who I picked up the phone and called when the situation with Andrew, to kind of backtrack a little bit, he had left ECC, was living with his bio mother, things fell apart, and then he came back to Delaware to be in the custodianship of another person. I was calling Val Longhurst, who had connections to ECC and who I had met through my time at the chamber. I was calling Rita Landgraf, the former Secretary of Health, who was part of the Highmark family and part of the work that I do now, and was a tremendous guide for me. I absolutely reached out to folks in Leadership Delaware who had family law background and who had connections to the state. And when we had a Medicaid issue or a Social Security issue, I called Senator Coon's office because I know the staff there, and they were able to connect me with the paperwork I needed to get that straight. I never thought I was going to need to call someone about any of these things, but because years and years and years of these relationships existed, I was able to navigate a very difficult time. So that's, I think, again, a very extreme story, but I think it matters. I think it applies.
Well, and also you never know when you're going to need these relationships. So it's not always, it's good to build them regardless, but even just to be able to always be putting your best foot forward, because you never know when those moments are going to come up that you're going to need to tap back into these relationships that you're starting to cultivate and build. So one other thing that I think that we should hit on, and it's something that you had said to me that is a tenet for you, but it's don't be so well-rounded. This is one of Denée's things, and I think it's brilliant, and I want you to share the story behind it, the idea behind it, and how we can take that out of here, because I think it's a great takeaway.
Yeah, has anyone, raise your hand if you've done any of those, like personality tests, the color insights, any of those, right? Raise your hand if you've done the Gallup strengths finder.
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so I would love to give credit where it's due, because I did not come up with this myself, but I was talking with someone, I believe it was on the cusp of getting my results in the strengths finder. And if you're not familiar with that one, the premise is that you have strengths to hone and weaknesses to be aware of. And so the kind of concept is, don't be so well-rounded you don't have a point, right? Okay? Don't be a circle, be a star. And I can't take credit for it, but I love it. And you know, I grew up at a time, where are my millennials at? My like 90s babies. Yes. Oh my gosh. All we were ever told was be well-rounded, get your community service, be an AP, be good at math, be good at English, be good at social studies, be good at history, play 17 sports, burn yourselves out before you hit 30. Absolutely the right thing to do. Go to college, but also have an internship and get a job while you're at it. Like all these things. And I grew up in this very kind of idea that I had to be good at everything. That is unrealistic pressure on people. And so as I've grown and learned, what I loved about that concept is not only can I shine, I'm going to be a star. I have my 5 points or 7. Maybe you've got 7. Maybe you have 3. I don't know. You've got your points, right? Your strengths. And if you think about a star, here's another like item I don't know the word of. Is it a vertice? The space between the points of a star. Anybody math? Anybody geometry here?
Can we call it the thenar?
The thenar of the star. It leaves space for other people's points. It leaves space for other people to shine. There is room enough in this giant sky that is our world for everyone to be a star. Your shine does not take away from someone else's shine. Their shine does not take away from yours. So don't be a circle. Be a star. Be confident and love and hone your strengths. And the weaknesses are where other people can step in and be their best selves. Okay? We all have space for this. So don't be a circle, be a star.
I love that. Does that resonate with anybody else? And I feel like when we had this conversation previously, I had not heard that. I had not thought of it from that perspective because I was told well-rounded, do 100 things. So I love that. I think that that's a great takeaway. How about any other pearls of wisdom you want to share before we open it up for questions or thoughts from anyone out here?
Just give your, this is not mine either. A friend of mine, Clara Matucci, she's with the Slice Communications Group, shared this with me. It is so hard in a fast-paced world. It's so hard when we're always on to the next thing to stop and celebrate the small things. And she shared an idea with me that I really loved called sticker moments. So yes, when you have a big win, when you finish that project, when you have a big milestone, please literally stop what you're doing and take a moment to soak that in. That is what's going to keep you going through all the hard things ahead because we know they're coming. And then her thing was every day she would sit down, and even if there wasn't like a big moment, there was a sticker moment. So she's got a little chart. Again, I think my 90s baby's nostalgia. We love a chart. We love a little game where we're like, yeah,
Yes.
we completed the ring, right? Or whatever little nuggets we love to see.
Absolutely.
She has a little calendar. She puts a sticker on there and she says to herself, my sticker moment for today was X. It could be that you made it through. It could be that you showed up here today and you didn't want to. It could be that you had that hard conversation with a friend or a parent or a colleague. Whatever it may be, find a sticker moment. I think that's really meaningful to applaud ourselves, to celebrate ourselves, and to recognize that we're putting in hard work.
I need to go buy stickers.
Yeah.
Like actual stickers
Yeah,
so that you can be
yeah.
meaningful and intentional about putting
Yeah,
it down
sticker
and saying,
moment.
this is my sticker moment for the day. I think that's great. Thank you. So I want to open it up to any questions, thoughts, anything that you want to ask. Do we have some out there? Yes? Okay, I'm coming around. I'm going to take a walk. Yeah. I want to make sure they have a,
Okay.
yeah.
Chelsea's
Okay.
amazing. Everyone give
gonna
Chelsea
walk
Clark
around.
a hand. I'm so thankful to have her as a friend.
Hi, my name is Maggie.
Hi, Maddie.
Hi, and my question is, as someone that is newer to their career and to networking in general, you said that one of the things is you can say, how can I help you? What do you say for someone who doesn't feel like they have those connections yet to give to other people? Like, what could I give as someone that's newer where I don't really have anything outside of myself to give?
Don't underestimate yourself, first. But second, the way that you just framed that, I think is perfect. You're meeting a seasoned, or maybe someone that you know, maybe you don't know that, but they're seasoned professional, and you say, hey, I'm new to this. What's the best advice that you can give me in this scenario? Or maybe you just interacted for 30 seconds. You can ask them, how could I have made this more meaningful as I grow in my networking journey? People are going to love to share that with you and help you grow as they've grown in their career journey, for sure. There's nothing wrong with asking for feedback and help.
I like that, asking
Right?
for feedback. And that may be a great point because somebody who is more experienced can say, hey, you know, this is maybe the better question you could have asked, or this is something that I would recommend you work on. And if they're willing to share that with you, receive that. All right, who else has a question? Oh, I've got them all over the place. Okay, I'm making my way around.
Should I also be doing this?
No, you shouldn't. You got to stay up there. You're the
That's a lot of
keynote.
walking for you. I don't mind.
Hi,
I'm a
my
boots
name
on the
is
ground
Leah.
kind of gal.
My name is Leah Ariane. I have moved away from the corporate world 20 years.
Congrats.
So I went open my own business. Due to COVID, I closed it, and I'm going back to the corporate world, the professional world. So I'm behind in the technology front, like the computer, emails, but I have a very strong accounting background. So I work in an office where people have been there 20, 30 years or 10 years. So I am struggling to have my coworker to share their knowledge. So I asked her, could you show me how to do this? So I don't know how to do it. Could you tell me? And then to the point that they say, leave me alone. Don't ask me no question. How do you handle situation like that?
I am so sorry that is your experience. We should never gatekeep information, especially when someone's willing to ask for it. I think out of spitefulness, may God forgive me, I would go figure it out myself. And then my second step to that would then be to be so ready when they need help from me to help them. I think if you have some folks at your work, supervisors or other teammates that can help you navigate that, thank you for sharing that. That was a really beautiful moment of vulnerability in asking that question. So I acknowledge that. I would try to find some folks that can support you and advocate for you in that space. But if that's going to be their attitude, then you're going to have to find that education outside of them and rely on yourself. But I think be ready to help them because they're going to need it.
Google. We're going to Google things. That's my number one when I don't have an answer and I need to find it. Two, this may be a lesson for everybody in the room that you never know what somebody's story is and why they're asking questions and where they're coming from. So we may not be able to fix your coworkers currently, but we can adjust all of our attitudes in this room to understand better that when somebody comes to us and needs help, sometimes it's worth taking a minute and being like, yep, you know what? I want to lend that hand because it's helpful to them, but it also leaves a positive impression. And let's think about it. When we do good for other people, it feels good.
Make sure to find her if you have that skill set, please. If you're willing to help her out with some of that technology, that's what this is about.
Absolutely. I believe you had a question. I'm going to sneak through here. Don't mind me. Excuse me.
Hi again. My name is Evan.
Hi, Evan.
I had a question related to networking and kind of after you've made that connection. A lot of people will say, oh, keep in touch, like let's connect on LinkedIn. What's kind of the like etiquette and expectations with that? How do you actually maintain that connection with a whole bunch of people so that, you know, years down the line, if you needed them in an unexpected way, kind of like in your story, where it doesn't feel like, oh, well, I've never heard from this person in years, so why are they asking me for help? So kind of where's that line? How do you stay in touch? What's, you know, appropriate?
I want to give a shout out to Evan. It's Thomas, right? Evan and Thomas here. They're with the Horn Entrepreneurship Program. They are about to launch a business. They're so impressive. I just got to meet them last week. If you have not gotten involved with the Horn Entrepreneurship Program and you want to be, I highly encourage it. I didn't think I had the expertise to support them, but I've done a few things with that group, and it is just an absolutely amazing experience to see what these students are learning and where they're going to take our entrepreneurial landscape. It's so impressive. So shout out to you guys. Is anybody else here from your cohort? Oh,
There's a couple.
Yes. Okay. Find these students and network with them. They're so incredible. So personally, I don't care. You've reached out, you email me, hey Denée, it's Evan from Horn. I have a question. Can we connect? Absolutely fine. I've had students reach out to me years later, months later. I will not give out my contact information if I don't want to be contacted. I don't want to speak for everyone on that, but that's generally how I view it. Any other questions?
I think that's a great point. And sometimes our networks can feel like they've gotten really big and you're not sure. You may feel like, oh gosh, am I reaching out? 5-minute asks is a great way to do that. If you can ask a 5-minute favor, oftentimes that's an easier way to open up a door for somebody if it's not something too big, because if it becomes too big of an ask and you have never spoken to them or made a deeper connection, it may not be something that they'll even entertain. But if you start with a 5-minute favor, that seems to, I think, be helpful sometimes.
And I want to share one quick story too with the Horn. And this is not a self. Again, this is the point of networking. I got to meet one of the students from the Horn program, and in talking with him, one of his actual biggest issues was not like his entrepreneurial journey. It was that he was struggling to find a visa and help with staying in this country to continue his education. I don't know anything about that, but I know people who know people about, like, who know about that. And ultimately, because of the people that I have made connections with who also have connections, we were able to get that student the paperwork and the guidance he needed to continue his education here. That's a win for me. I didn't do anything. Someone else had the expertise and the connections. But to be that conduit is, I think, for me, is another reason that I do what I do and that I am such a big proponent of relationship building.
Absolutely. That's a great example. We have time for one more before they're going to boot us off.
Cora.
All right, Cora, what's up?
So one of the important things about making connections and networking with people is, you know, going out and actively seeking those connections. But the other part is signaling to the universe and signaling to the people in your network that you're open to providing support. My question is, what advice can you give to people how do you signal to people, how do you make the people who know you think about you when they have a problem?
Love that, Cora. Thank you. You stumped me. I don't know. It is my hope that my presence is a welcoming one, and that in my doing this, right, I'm open to networking, I'm open to supporting. I think there's a lot to do with, again, we talked about charisma, we talked about being open to opportunity. And I think there's just, you can just say, I would love to help you at any point in time. Please call me. But I think there's just a way about you that you can carry yourself that is saying, like, people are going to take from you that energy, that interaction, and think, I don't know, I'm really struggling with this because I'm not really sure how to answer you.
I think the impression that you leave speaks volumes, right? So you always want to be carrying yourself with an air of, I am open and I'm willing to help. Also, I would say that if you're struggling and you feel like that's not coming naturally, find places that call to you and get involved. Because if you can't seem to just build that relationship quickly with people, because some people just don't have that, that's a gift and doesn't come easy. But if you don't have that, getting involved in organizations, whether it's a nonprofit or professional development organization, getting involved in those places where you can build deeper connections with networks within those organizations, start to help you branch out. And then people start to see you as, Cora's great at helping with this. She was wonderful to work
Cora
with.
is great.
She'd be a great person. And next time somebody reaches out to Denée and is like, I need help with X, Denee's served on a committee with you. And now she's like, Cora's your girl. She's going to be your person. And then you start to build that reputation of being able to do that.
I think that's great. So I think it goes back to that long game, right? Long game mindset of when you're asked for help, right?
Ooh.
Be consistent, be reliable, because then people will say, oh my gosh, Chelsea helped me with this. Oh my gosh, Cora showed up to this. And be visible. To Chelsea's point, do stuff. You can't just sit at your office or in your home office all the time and then expect to have these amazing connections, right? I know that sounds silly, but you have to be seen. You have to be heard. And I'll just say that. Don't be afraid to speak up. There are no stupid questions. There really aren't. And if someone makes you feel stupid, that's on them. Ask questions, say your mind, because a lot of times, and I'll share, there have been times in my corporate life where I'm sitting at a meeting thinking to myself, I must not know something, right? I have this question. I must have missed the beginning of the meeting. I must have missed the conversation where they answered this. And I feel very uncomfortable to speak up about it. 9 times out of 10, when I've asked the question, hey guys, why are we doing it this way? Or hey guys, is there a reason that we are approaching it from this perspective? No one's ever asked the question. Mm-hmm. And so you can be the person that asked the question. And the worst case scenario is you ask it and they answer you and now you know, right? So don't be afraid. Again, don't be afraid to take up space. Don't be afraid to use your voice.
Mm-hmm. Be a star.
Be a star. Be a
star. Thank you all for coming. Denée, final closing thoughts other than be a star?
No, but thank you so much. And do reach out. Thank you for being here.